Greetings, Cap fans, and welcome to another episode of the Captain America Comic Book Fans Podcast. This is episode 25, and I am your host, Rick Verbanis, and as always, I'm joined by my partner, Bob Lucius. Bob, hello.
Hey, this is going to be a great show, Rick. This is like an unusual show, right? I mean, this is the first time we've done this.
Yeah, so we have a winner of our contest on, Mr. James Foley. So we'll be talking with him. I'm so
excited.
Yeah,
so excited for this.
And we're number 25. We made it to 25, Bob.
That's pretty amazing. I don't know what anniversary is that? Is that paper? Is that silver? I don't know what that is, but I got to get something out in the mail to you right away.
I don't know, but if it's volume 5, it's the death issue.
Well, that's a downer, man.
I know, right? Way to bring it down, Rick.
No, Jiminy cricket.
Yeah, no, this is going to be a fun episode. No, because we are going to talk with the winner of our contest, James Foley. He is a huge Cap fan, and so we get to hear a little bit of what got him into Cap. And the subject of today's episode was he picked, which is the Captain Run by Mark Gruenwald. From issue 332 to 350. So we're going to kind of high level take a look at that year and a half run and kind of go through those issues and talk about some of the highlights in that. So yeah, we'll go ahead and do that. And if you're not on the Captain America Comic Book Fans Facebook page, you need to get there now, because I'm telling you, starting today, we kick off the Elite 8 in our Cap Madness bracket. So this was something we started with 32 Captain America artists. We narrowed it down in the first round to the Sweet 16, and then we just completed the second round, and now we are today kicking off the third round with the Elite 8. And I'm a little nervous, Bob, because today is the last day to vote up until noon today for the very last battle of round 2. And it's Chris Samney versus Mike Zack.
Yeah, I mean, this is, if you don't get in on this, listeners, if you're not part of this, I don't want to hear any complaining when we get down to the winner, because this is tooth and nail. This is red and claw fighting going on right now for supremacy. So you got to get in on this.
Yep. It's been a lot of fun as far as the back and forth and everybody giving their thoughts on who they think should be the winner of that battle. And here we are. We're now kicking off. Once we get the results of the Samney Zek battle, we'll be kicking off the Elite 8. And then we'll be finishing it up on, I think it's April 20th. That will be the last day. So make sure every day you go to the Facebook page and you vote.
Yeah. And, let's not just vote, but tell us why you're voting a certain way, because we want to know why a particular artist appeals to you. Give us some examples. Show us your love.
Yeah. That's always the fun part too, right?
Yeah.
All right. So speaking of Facebook page, let's get to our guest, Mr. James Foley. All right, Bob. Well, it's time for our guest, the winner of our contest, Mr. James Foley. Hi, James. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Rick. How you doing? Hi, Bob.
Hey.
We're doing great. We're excited to have you on board. We know you're a big Cap fan. You have been part of the Captain America Comic Book Fans Facebook group since July. So you've been with us for quite some time. And you've been an early listener of the podcast. In fact, you were the very first person to leave a review on Apple. So we really do appreciate that. It's a shame it was only 1 star. What was up with that?
I hit the 5. Finger must have slipped. Sorry.
No, you left us a nice 5-star review, which we appreciate. And And if you're listening now and you enjoy the show, then we encourage everybody to leave a 5-star review on Apple. So we appreciate that. And so anyway, yeah, James, it's great to have you on here. You won the contest. You've got stuff coming in the mail, but more importantly, you are here on the show, and you told us that you wanted to talk about the infamous Captain series from Mark Grunwald back in the day, starting with 332 to go to 350. Now, obviously, we can't get into every single issue in our time here, but we certainly do want to talk about it. And
Okay.
But before we do, tell us, what got you first into Cap?
So growing up, I grew up in North Florida, and a few of my friends collected comic books and things. And for my birthday, I believe I was 12. Somebody had given me a stack of books, and one of them being one of the books that we'll talk about, 339. So I read that one. I really got a kick out of it. And then it just led me to buying different Marvel books off of that set. And then I really just attached myself to Captain America, being that American hero, and going through that time where he was the captain and he had turned in the uniform. It just really, the story spoke to me. Him being able to go through that hero's journey, if you will.
Yeah. So we're talking, this was early 1988.
February. Yep.
Yep. So we've got a young James Foley. He's reading Mark Grunwald, and at the time, the artist on it was Kieron Dwyer, which was great. And Ron Friends was doing the covers. And I think that issue of 339, that was the Fall of the Mutants tie-in, right? That had the Four Horsemen apocalypse, right? But it was famine.
It was famine. Yep. And her steed.
Yeah. I remember that. And it was cool. And you know what? So tell us a little bit about what appealed to you at that time about the character, the Captain, because he wasn't Captain America, but we were seeing John Walker in the Captain America uniform. So that must have been a little confusing. I don't know. Take us through that.
Well, again, it was still kind of new for me. I didn't know the characters that well. Background being Amazing Spider-Man and his amazing friends, and Cap showed up in one or two episodes of that, and cartoons here and there where I'd had chances to see them. But just getting into the storyline. So I wasn't able to get every issue at that time. Since then, obviously, I've gotten all of the Captain Americas from 100 to today. But at the time, I was still kind of hit and missing. So I got 339. I missed 340. Then I picked up 341 when it was Cap versus Iron Man. And I picked up the corresponding Iron Man issue. So that dynamic between the friends and the, throwing the shield back, but I'll give Tony a chance to figure out what's going on with him. So that was interesting. It just kind of started bringing me into it. And then picking up the Viper series, which is the first part of that being the end of 341, and getting into the storyline where they're going and doing the terrorist attack on Washington, D.C. I did miss 343, picked up 344 with Ronald Reagan on the cover. And as a 12-year-old kid, here's the Captain fighting the president wearing snakeskin. And it just absolutely blew my mind that they could put that in a comic book.
Well, it was a great time.
Don't do it. Oh, it's too late.
He did it.
He did it. He pulled the trigger on that one.
Oh, yeah.
Rick, I gotta point something out here, because we're all audio here, right? But man, James has got like a serious hero cave going on.
I know, right?
I'm seeing a lot of Cap covers. I'm seeing some Golden Age, some Silver Age. I'm seeing modern, covers. Man, this is a true believer.
It might have been staged, but yes.
It definitely. He's sporting the colors.
The ones on the top, you can see I've got my favorite artist with the covers up there, and then the ones on the rack, I put the 344 up there. But yeah, Avengers 5, Captain America Comics 25, a couple other ones.
Yeah, no, that's some good stuff right there. So you said your favorite artists. Who are your favorite Cap artists?
So I definitely voted for Dwyer. I hated seeing him not make it. He's one of my tops. And I actually was when going back through and reviewing, so I knew I'd be able to talk about it. It surprised me that he didn't do a cover until 350. I had not noticed that.
Yeah, they're all like Ron Friends, right?
Yeah, Ron Friends, Al Milgram's. And then 350 was Dwyer's first cover. And he had been doing it for almost a year at that point, I think, if not more.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I'm a big Kieron Dwyer fan as well.
Mm-hmm.
During that time, I thought it was, art that it was, I don't know. I mean, Paul Neary was fine. I mean, he was good, but
Sure.
Dwyer, I don't know, breathed some new life into it. And as I was going through these issues, 332 to 350 to get, talking with you about this, I couldn't help but notice all the scantily clad women that he was doing, with Diamondback,
I did comment on that a couple times on my notes. Yeah.
I noticed, Rick. I noticed.
Yeah, I'm sure you
Did
did,
ya?
Robert. Changing in the snake saucer with everybody sitting there right next to her. I thought that was kind of risque.
Yeah, a coach whip.
Oh yeah, yep, absolutely.
Yeah, there was some
Black Mamba with the maid outfit.
Yeah.
Now you're talking my language now, James.
He likes the French maid outfit.
Now here's the question though: how does Sidewinder not notice her walking in the room?
I know. It's like,
okay. He was busy reading the financials, James. Making priorities.
He didn't bother looking up. Like,
obviously.
Yeah, I know. Oh, how about that splash page opening up where D-Man and Nomad's girlfriend were
Vagabond.
And Vagabond's, she's flipping D-Man and not wearing a whole bunch. And it was
Wortham would have lost his mind. Not to cut you off, and I'm sorry, but I saw that. If you look at that anatomy and you think about it, you're like, holy mackerel! Yes.
Yeah. So a young teenage Rick all of a sudden became a Kieron Dwyer fan.
No idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Hooked for life.
Yeah. So all right. So name some other artists that are up there that
sure
that were some of your favorites.
I've got a copy of a Jurgens page. I think I posted that in the fan book page last week or when he was up for voting. That's my one original art that I've picked up. Cassidy I like a lot. I got to meet him at one of our conventions up here in Fairfax and got to sit and talk with him for a few minutes. Like I'm sitting there telling him about my favorite cover, which is the one with Cap in front of the eagle. And he sat there and had me come around the table to talk to me for a few more minutes while he was signing books.
Nice.
Just because of the personal story to it really did something for him.
That's great. Yeah. So right now you've got a bunch of ones that have not advanced past round one in our
I know.
Captain America favorite artist bracket. You got anybody still left in the bracket that you're rooting for?
I think I'm rooting for Zach. I put in my Zach.
Rick was so fishing. That was like
I know
fishing expedition going on there.
I've been around long enough and hoping to get invited back sometime. So I'll be in. Some of the other ones like Jusco, they didn't make the list for the obvious reasons, but they were some other favorites.
Yeah. Joe Jusco. Yeah, he's a great cover artist.
I think the only one that I've got a cover of up there on the favorites wall is Kirby. So we'll see how he goes.
Yeah, he's not bad.
He only created him.
Yeah. Well, co-creator. We got to give Joe Simon, his
absolutely
due, right? So
I have been to the museum where they have the thing for him in Rochester.
Mm-hmm.
I need to post that sometime in the group.
Yeah, that would be great.
Okay.
So you have a favorite Cap writer over these years?
Oh, Grunwald, by all means. No questions asked. But again, that was because it was so much of my childhood and growing up. I mean, it was from me starting all the way through till Wade. That was the only guy I had.
Right. Okay.
Grunwald's definitely by far the favorite.
All right. So we got Grunwald and Kieron Dwyer. And so that's perfect, I guess, for us to start talking about this series of the Captain. So yeah, this was a 1.5 year storyline where it started in issue 332, where Steve Rogers had to go in front of the commission, and they basically said, listen, you still work for the United States government. You didn't die, and you signed a contract, and so we want you to come back and answer to us, and gave Steve 24 hours, and he basically did some soul searching and came back and said, you know what, I don't represent the American government. I represent the American dream, and so I can't do this. And he turns in his uniform. He turns in a shield. He's supposed to pay back $1 million. That's a side story, but so he goes, and then he goes to find himself, right? And then we've got, in the meantime, John Walker as the super patriot is on the Washington Monument and stopping a terrorist who was trying to set off a nuclear bomb. And the commission says, you know what, this is a good person to put in the cap uniform. And then that story takes off. And so we get introduced to 3 of his compatriots, one of them being Lamar Hoskins. We get a few issues of him training, right? Because they have to go through and do some training before you can put him out in the field. So he's training with Taskmaster.
Yep.
And then he goes on to some missions. So that's kind of like the first, 5 or 6 issues there in a nutshell. What were your thoughts on this the introduction of this story?
So a couple of things really stuck out to me going back and reading over it. The fact that Steve Rogers isn't in those first 3 issues. It was all John Walker. I thought that was interesting to go that route. I did look back and I thought with what's going on with the Falcon Winter Soldier, I thought it was really interesting how much different Lamar was when he first got introduced in the comic to how they're portraying him in the TV show. Roberts brought up multiple times the fact that he's a higher ranking military member and a staff sergeant and things like that, where in the book, he doesn't even have his high school diploma.
Right.
He's a veteran, but he hadn't gotten that far, and they downplayed him, and Mark Grunwald had made a point of that. He wasn't, the super smart or the guy out in front, if you will. He's more of an everyman.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So those were interesting to me. Introducing the Watchdogs, I thought that was a unique characterization as a group. Funny to sit there and look at the 80s and now and see how much it still can cross over and still be a hot topic, if you will.
Yeah. Yep. It's timely. It's certainly, timely and timeless.
Right.
Yeah.
I think for me, one of the most riveting features of those first few issues of that sort of captain arc was as we got introduced to Steve Rogers' beard.
Yes. Yep, 336.
Bob, you know what? Bob, we're in episode 25. We're in episode 25 of this podcast series, and I have yet to put in any kind of special effects. But I swear to God, I'm going back to the editing, and I'm going to do like a wah, wah, wah. That was bad.
No, when he goes up against Brother Nature, man, I'm like, I was feeling that outdoorsiness,
How manly was he to have that much of a beard in 30 days?
Did you see that hair? I mean, come on. But come on.
I've done a deployment. I never made that in 45.
All right. Are we done?
Probably not.
Are we done? I was hoping to go through this without talking about Brother Nature or whatever the heck his name is.
It was pretty horrible.
What's his name? What's his name?
Brother Nature.
Brother Nature.
Brother Nature.
Yeah, brother.
Birth from the earth.
Okay. So, all right. Yeah, I agree. It was really interesting the fact that the first three issues did not have Cap in there, and yet the story was compelling.
Yep.
It was great. You know, and I think, quite frankly, there's a lot of times when I forget about this, right? Because we look at Ed Brubaker, we look at Captain America, when he
Mm-hmm.
died in volume 5, number 25. And then there was all that time that Steve wasn't in the series. And it
Yep.
was like, wow, Ed Brubaker is masterful because he can make this a great series without the lead character. All these other characters have stepped up and makes for a great story. And I completely forget that Mark Gruenwald's did something very similar in the fact that he took Steve out of it and made the other characters, and it didn't miss a beat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the other thing is, Rick, I mean, I think, it was masterful. I mean, it's good storytelling, right? And it's great art, and it's good storytelling, but it also is, as James sort of pointed out earlier, this hero's journey, right? So we've got two sort of hero's journeys going on at the same time, right? We've got Steve Rogers, who's sort of finding his way and what this all means to him. But we've also got John Walker on his own hero's journey, and that follows a certain arc, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would say yes, but it's poignant in the fact that it's the hero's arc to failure. It's the man that's not able to be Captain America and can't live up to that ideal.
Right. Although he keeps trying. Like I
He does.
forgot about that until I reread this, was that, very early on, and I miss thought bubbles. Can I just say that? I miss thought bubbles in the comic books.
And editor's notes.
Yeah, I miss those.
Yes.
Because Gruenwald was not shy about putting thought bubbles, in all the different characters, and even for like the silliest side thoughts, just things like that. But you would see John's thoughts, and he would be, well, what would Captain America do here? And he kept questioning himself, and he kept saying, well, he would do this, and then he told the commission that yes, he and Lamar put on the guardsman uniforms and they busted into the bar. Like he came forward with that, because he thought, well, what would Cap do? And he did. And there are other instances like that. But slowly he starts questioning the commission. He starts questioning whether they have the right interest, if they're doing the right thing. He questions the missions that he's be putting on. And so he stops, I think, at that point, trying to emulate Captain America and start doing more of making John Walker decisions, for lack of a better term.
It's interesting how I mean, obviously it didn't happen, or it happened much later, but it would have been interesting to see where he sort of evolved had not the incident happened with Ma and Pa.
Right.
Because he was maturing, and he was developing and developing a new sense of himself.
Mm-hmm.
But he had already started his body count.
Yeah.
So I wonder, would that have continued on one way or the other? You've got Cap's at 330 something. Steve Rogers killed one person and lamented about it for a year and a half. Mm-hmm. Walker's body count, I think at the end was somewhere around 2025.
Yeah. And not only by his hands, but also collateral damage, right? Like the pilot of the helicopter that went down, what would have, would Steve have been able to save the pilot? I don't know, but he would have certainly tried. Right.
Yep.
I mean, so there's collateral damage going on as well. All right. So that takes us to, the middle arc where Steve is now the captain, and he's got a the crew has found him, right? So we've got Nomad, which is Jack Monroe. We've got Dennis Dumfries, which is the D-Man, Demolition Man. Falcon, Sam Wilson. We have Nomad's girlfriend, Vagabond. And so they all catch up with him, and they decide to go off on a couple of missions. And in the side story we got going on is the Serpent Society, which we've got these 4 characters that are breaking in Vegas, and they stop them, and then I think they were actually okay with getting arrested because they wanted to meet the Sidewinder, and become part of the Serpent Society. So there was that going on. You got this little riff going on between Jack Monroe, who's becoming quite the jerk.
I hated him throughout it.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoyed Jack Monroe tremendously when he was written by J.M. DeMatteis. Mark Grunwald's take on him is taking him down a path that's he's become quite the jerk. And so there's him versus D-Man, and then you get the thought bubbles of his insecurity and all this, which was telling. We get Viper, right? We get her brought back, and you get to see what's going on with her I guess mission to try to poison Washington D.C. With the water. So we get this whole story arc going on, and so we I don't know. It's interesting to see, and I'm sorry. And at the same time, we see more and more of John Walker questioning the missions and the mutant that quote unquote mutant that they found, and so on. So, what were your thoughts on these?
Pretty right on. Very, very well put together. I thought that the development of the crew was unique in the fact that it's like, here, let me bring all of his sidekicks together, and they're different levels. Falcon is very much in a leadership position and able to talk to Captain or Steve Rogers as an equal and say, hey man, you're not doing this right. You should be doing this instead. Kind of being that sounding board of reason that Steve needed to hear. Demolition Man trying to be that brand new guy to prove himself as the hero, and like you said, Nomad just being the jerk, given that strife amongst the team, treating Vagabond horribly multiple times. He treats her like garbage, for lack of a better term.
Well, she's just a dame. She's a skirt. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. He's from the 50s.
And he is, but they don't remind you of that. They don't talk about that anywhere in the storyline. At no point in that does he ever remind us that Jack's from a different time.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great point, James, right? Because I mean, if you're jumping into this series, fairly contemporary to when these issues are coming out, and you're not familiar with the prehistory of this character, I mean, if you're familiar with it, you can kind of understand that he's still kind of on this journey, right? And but if you just jump in, like you're like, wow, what is up with this guy?
Yeah, and also too, he I realized he was thinking of dumping Vagabond because he thought he caught her and D-Man together, but he's looking at Rachel Diamondback. And what was his thought bubble? Like, she seems like she's really available. I wonder if she's clean. I mean,
yeah.
Wow.
He's allowed to be a jerk. He just, Vagabond's not allowed to be, or Priscilla.
Right.
And they really didn't have that much of a backstory either. You look at the starting dating was just a few issues before this started. But yeah, iconic covers. I mean, you can't get better than the 337, which is an homage to Avengers 4. And then the 341 to sit there and have Cap versus Iron Man, and that'd be a throwback to that Daredevil cover. I may be getting ahead of you. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. And I was remiss. We've been talking a lot about Kieron Dwyer, but we didn't mention for like the first 7 or 8 issues of this was Tom Morgan.
Right.
This was his run on this. So, he was the penciler for that as well.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think Dwyer came in at 339, didn't he? I may be off.
That sounds right.
Okay. And then you mentioned the Viper and starting her thing. I wanted to pull out that 342 with that page 5 with the half splash of Steve coming out of the house to go see the Wakandans.
Oh,
with that giant.
That was awesome.
That was the one I posted in the page for Dwyer as my hey, this is why he should win.
Yeah,
that is spectacular to me.
I'm a sucker for those. Anytime you see Captain America do a lot of acrobats and you see like all the motion, all the character bending, turning, whatever, all on the same page. I love that stuff.
Dwyer did it multiple times. I'm sorry,
No, I'm going to say we got to go back to the Brother Nature story, Rick, because that dismount from the motorcycle, even Sam was like, "Holy cow! How about what's up with that dismount?"
that was strong. That was strong.
Yep, it was.
All right, so moving on to I know we're going through these fast, but moving on to kind of like the last third is really we get to see the fall of John Walker, right? We see we see the Watchdogs capture him and the death of his parents. We see his left wing and right wing coming back and what he does with them. And, as you said, James, the death toll is just rising and rising. So what do we think of this, that these stories that really, I thought Mark did a great job as far as like building up to these, and you mentioned, James, like the Falcon and Winter Soldier Disney Plus series. There's an echo of that in the show, right? Because they're building up, I think, to the fact that John's having a hard time with the pressure. And I think that's really taken from this story.
Well, and when they introduced him on Good Morning America on Falcon Winter Soldier, they made sure they said his name and all that. Whereas in 341, it was the one where left winger, right winger come out there and announce his name. It surprised me. I know it's for the plot, but it surprised me that they didn't put any kind of protection on his family. With them having that target. I mean, that's that ultimate fear of any masked hero, that his family is going to pay the consequences for his actions. And you see him break when you look at that issue 345, when, they're in the Watchdogs and the Watchdogs end up shooting at him while he's trying to escape and then massacre his parents graphically. And then he goes and takes out the whole squad.
And you know what? I mean, how many of us wouldn't, if we had the ability, right? And we just saw our parents get massacred. How many of us wouldn't have fallen into that if we had the ability to do that? It's hard to say.
You're absolutely right. But he's wearing Captain America's uniform. And that's, I would hope that's not what Steve would do.
Of course not. Yes. We all agree that Steve is that North Star, that is, and that's what makes it so hard to wear that uniform, because of the standard that he sets.
Then when you get into 346, where he goes and the commission sends him out there to work with Freedom Force, trying to capture the resistance. And then at the end, he reveals that his parents were being buried that day. That literally tugs at your heartstrings, that he's being forced to go out there and do that instead of be at the funeral.
Yeah.
That was a very powerful panel there at the end of that issue. That gave me pause. I read that one again last night, and I sat on that one for a bit.
And then to go into the very next one with 347, where now he's looking for left and right winger, going to their parents and their family, who you see all the different reactions. One's mom almost having a heart attack. The other one's going, I don't care what you do with him. I haven't seen the bum. It was an interesting juxtapose for that. And then they have the big fight in the refinery. you sit there and see him leave them in that precarious James Bond position, if you will, hung up with the torch to save themselves, and the explosion, and that smile and then frown. No words on the page, but it spoke volumes.
Yeah. Yep. It was heavy stuff, and certainly well executed by the creative team.
Yeah,
I gotta wonder, back when that issue came out, and you're reading through that issue for the first time, and you get to that scene, like what percentage of readers thought that left winger and right winger were going to be getting away and making it to fight another day, and what percentage really thought that like Walker was actually going to like murder those guys, right?
Right. Yeah,
I don't think it was for lack of trying. Again, being a 12-year-old kid, that was the ones I read, and it was like, holy mackerel, that was a big deal. I remember that 30 years later, sitting there going, I'm just wow.
So, what did you think of the culmination of this 1.5 year long story? Issue 350, we have John Walker versus Steve Rogers for the mantle. How that went, and then ultimately, the decision at the end with John Walker, returning the uniform.
So again, we almost have to look at it with the whole 2 issues before that with Flag Smasher and Battlestar asking Steve Rogers to come and help them. You've already got Walker in that position that he feels like, I'm not good enough. Even my partner's asking for help to save me. It almost felt rushed when I have that many issues building up to it. And then it's, oh, by the way, it's the Red Skull, and here's all the stuff he's got going on. Mm-hmm. And then because he's wearing Steve's face, Walker thinks that it's him. So you have that big fight. And then Walker ends up figuring out that it wasn't Steve doing it. And honestly sat there and said, I'm not worthy. You need to be it. Mm-hmm. I cannot carry this mantle, and if you don't do it, they're just going to get some other guy to do it again. So it was a great ending to it, if you will. I did feel it was just a little rushed in that regard. It was the big reveal. Oh, the Red Skull's behind all of it, and he's been doing all this behind the whole time.
Yeah, I agree with you, James. I think it might have been a little rushed. I thought that double size issue was just it was rocking, right? I mean, to see Red Skull in Roger's clone body, with Roger's face, and it's like, what? And he was behind the commission the whole time. What a surprise, right? But that those ending scenes, those ending dialogues between Walker and Rogers, where Walker recognizes that that's the journey for him, right? He finally realized that he wasn't ready to carry that mantle, and I thought, and that was a pretty powerful closure of both of their journeys, in at least in that instance. So that's among one of my favorite issues.
And Steve really did beat him. I mean, it was a big deal. Like, multiple times they had made the comment that he wasn't good enough because Super Patriot had beaten him, and was I off my game and things like that. Whereas no shield, man to man, he did beat him.
Yep.
In a clean fight. Yeah.
It was phenomenal. It was one heck of a story from beginning to end. I mean, nowadays they'd probably try to do that in 8 issues.
If that, yeah.
Yeah. But Mark Gruenwald was able to really build this story, and to really, make us care about these characters, seeing things from their point of view. So it was masterfully done. So the story is done. You finished reading this, and did you ever stop collecting Captain America after this, or were you hooked?
I was hooked. So the downside is, again, like I was saying, I missed issues here and there because I was going and just buying them at the local convenience store. I never had a comic book shop anywhere near me. So it was if I found them on a spinner rack, that type of thing. So I actually missed 349, 350, and 351. and then picked up 352, and that it didn't miss an issue after that.
Nice. And then you went and back, you filled them all up from 100 to now. So
right, and all the way back to Tales of Suspense. I'm just missing the 2 Red Skull origin story issues to finish that out for me.
Nice. So James,
Uh-huh.
you were in the Navy.
I was 20 years.
20 years.
That's incredible, man. I mean, 20 years. How did you manage? I mean, I was, I was in the Marines for quite a long time as well.
I did. I didn't know you were an officer until one of the last posts you made.
Yeah. Well, it's not easy though. All that traveling around, and I don't know if you were if you were deployed afloat, but like, how did you keep up collecting? I mean, where did you keep your comics? How did you keep them safe? What, man? That's impressive.
So I did my time in. I made a conversation with my mom and dad when I first went in, and said, Mom, where can I put them so that they won't get messed with? And Mom gave me an entire chest of drawers, nice cedar chest of drawers in the house. And I put all my comic books inside those drawers, which protected them from the insects and anything else. So for the first few years I was in, I would still buy books, and then I would ship them home to Mom, and she would keep putting them in the chest for me as I would get a stack of them when I was still living in the barracks. Again, never had a comic book shop when I was growing up or anything like that. So everything I collected at that point was either flea markets or convenience stores. Once I was stationed in Connecticut, then I got to go to my first comic book shop, which years later I got to work at for a few years. I enjoyed that a lot. That's where a lot of the Cap stuff came from. Married my first wife, and at that point, once we got married, I brought the collection with me to where we were staying at in Navy housing. We only lasted 6 months, and she trashed the house when we got divorced. But didn't touch a single comic book.
Thank God.
And I asked her, I'm like, you broke every CD I own. You ripped every picture I have up of all my friends. You trashed all the stuff in the house. You didn't touch the comic book. She goes, no. Everything else you get mad at me about, and that's what I wanted for a reaction. If I touched the comic books, you probably would have killed me.
Wow.
Once we got divorced, I moved back in the barracks. I actually was able to keep them with me. I ended up talking to the barracks manager. Now I'm an E5. I've been in, I think at that point I've been in almost 6 years. Mm-hmm. And they were like, yeah, you're not supposed to have these here. I'm like, yeah, but they're my comics. So they let me keep them in the barracks instead of making me get a storage unit. And then when I went to my next duty station, I started using them as furniture. So they were, my TV stand was comic book boxes. My computer desk was comic book boxes. And then once me and my wife got married and we got our places, she's always put up with that. She's always given me, okay, this is where you put your comics, and that's yours, and that's all you get. So she'll always decorate everywhere else in the house. But like y'all made the comment, this is my comic book room. Everything in here is my comic books. They don't go out that door.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. If it's outside there, it's art. So she's got some art germs. She's got some Michael Turners, things like that. Those are artistic pieces.
Nice.
They're allowed.
Yeah. Well, God, so hey, that is a great compromise.
Yep. You
landed a good one. Yeah, you landed a good one there.
Oh, absolutely. And she's got her own collection. She's got her own part of the database. She's got 6 long boxes that are all hers.
What?
Oh, yeah.
What is she into?
She collects everything Wonder Woman, Aspen Comics. She's getting Jim Henson's run that's coming out right now. I mean, she's still active. I'm picking books up for her tomorrow. I mean, she's still.
Was she collecting when you met her?
She read Sailor Moon.
Okay.
And that was about it. She had a couple of Sailor Moon comics and Robotech. And then once we started dating, and she'd go to the comic book shops with me. And then it got worse and worse. But yeah.
That's awesome, man.
You mean awesome. Better and better.
Better and better.
Depends on who you talk to, but yeah, absolutely.
Very nice. Well, yeah, that's great. That you've found that person who respects that about you, and I hope that for everybody. I know I have. My fiance, she's the same way. I have my man cave, which is the finished basement, and three quarters of it is a NFL team. I won't say who because I know I'm just going to create enemies. But
pretty sure you already put that out.
Yeah, and then the other 25% is all my comic book stuff, which is 90% Captain America stuff. So, but yeah, it's not allowed to leave this floor. So I get it,
Yep. I was blessed. My kids growing up being in the shop with us, they found things that they like. They've still got a couple of books that they collect. My daughter, not as much. She still really likes covers, but not reading the books as much. So she'll pick up out Harley Quinn. Last series she collected was Domino. My son's into the Transformers, Venom, stuff like that. But they're 19, 17, so it's been going on for a while.
Yeah, that's great, James. That's like you're like the model comic family.
Yeah, got to raise them right.
Yeah, good job, man.
Thanks.
All right, James, what kind of predictions do you have for the Falcon and Winter Soldier series?
So y'all made me think a lot with the whole is Baron Zemo the power broker. That's got made me questioning things, because I thought we had seen the power broker when they were going into the airport, that he was in one of those limos when they all jumped out of the cars. So I thought it was just one of those nondescript guys in the tuxedos. I do think somebody's going to get taken out in Walker's family. More likely that girlfriend or whatever we met, the one person we met in the locker room. I'm very interested. I'm curious how it's going to continue out. It has been a great series so far. I have enjoyed every episode and watched them at least twice.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, it's been a real pleasure having you on the show. We enjoyed chatting with you. We know you're a huge Cap fan, and that's always a real pleasure in meeting other Cap fans. So thank you for your time on the Facebook page and your support of the podcast series. So we hope to talk with you some more.
Thanks, Rick. I really appreciate it, Robert. Great talking with you. And please keep putting them out. I do enjoy listening to the podcast every week.
Awesome.
Or twice a week.
All right. Take care, James.
Take care, my friend.
You guys take care.
Well, that was a great conversation with James. He's a super nice guy.
Yeah, just a genuinely nice guy. And I am like fascinated. And we got to do more of these, Rick, because I got to tell you, I love listening to like guys and gals tell us how they first got into Cap, what Cap's meant to them and how they've stuck with it over the years. For some of them have been collecting for decades. Some of them have just gotten into it, but every story is unique. And it's just really, I hate that like sound like, so, sentimental, but it warms my heart, man.
Oh yeah. Because, the people in our Facebook group, our listeners to this podcast series, these are genuine Cap fans, right? If you're sitting here and you're listening to me and Bob rattle on about Captain America comic books, we know the kind of fan that you are. So we'd love to hear from you. So don't forget, you can always go to our Anchor page, which is in the show notes if you need the link. And you can always go in there and on our Anchor page, there's a link for you to leave a voice message. So if you want to call in and talk about your favorite moment, your favorite artist, your favorite writer, your reaction to anything that we say in the show, your reaction to the winners of the bracket, call in. You got 60 seconds to state your case, and maybe we'll play it here on the show.
Yeah. I got to tell you, Rick, that's one of the things I love about this podcast, right? Because we love Cap. You love Cap. I know you know a lot about Cap. I love Cap, but there's some folks out there that know a lot about Cap, and we're not coming off as trying to be experts here. We're just lovers of Cap, and we want to hear from other folks who feel the same way.
Agreed. All right. So next episode coming out is going to be number 26, and that's going to be our reaction to the Falcon and Winter Soldier episode number 5. So it's going to be the penultimate episode of the series. So stay tuned for that. We'll have that out late Sunday evening. Our reaction to that, and then next week, our episode 27 is going to be continuing the theme. We're actually going to review the Falcon and Winter Soldier miniseries from last year. So the 5-issue miniseries that came out in 2020. We thought, it'd be timely to go ahead and check those out. So we will cover those.
Yeah, I've read the first issue in that series, but I have not I've not kept up with it. But I am super looking forward to diving in and devouring them in anticipation of that show.
See, and that's the kind of devotion that we give to you, the listeners, right? We have to go now do research and read comic books, but hey, we do it for you because we love you.
Yeah. Peace out.
All right. As always, Bob, I've enjoyed wrapping cap with you.
Oh, it's been great. And again, thank you, James. It was a great time.
All right. He's Bob Lucius. I'm Rick Verbanis, and you've been listening to the Captain America Comic Book Fans Podcast.